Good morning, everybody. Just checking on in. Happy Saturday. Good to see everybody here. Can you hear my voice, Vincent? Is that reading loud and clear? Phil Mills in the house. Good to see you. Jerry Rakowski. Good to have you, Tuja. Lovely to see you. Great in pink. What's up, Christian? Good to have you here, Latif and Don. Great to see you, my friend. It's great to have David Starline back. Good to see you, friend. Long time. It's great to have Chris Dennis in the house. We've got some chatting to do, my friend. I'm happy to see you. I'm glad you're well. It's great to have you there, Jim, Jackson, Mark Jean, Money Machine, and from Beverly Hills. Great to have all of you guys here on a great Saturday morning. And I'm really delighted to report that today's the last Saturday we'll actually be doing on this show and any other show for that matter. I couldn't believe it, but our scheduling team had said, you realize that we're carrying a pandemic schedule still. And I said, well, didn't that thing happen in 2020? And the team was like, well, it kind of went on for a number of years. And, you know, here in Canada, we just lifted the stay-at-home order about last Tuesday. So all kidding aside, I mean, the point is that we're going to be moving our calls into evenings and weekdays where it is far more manageable and way more accessible because of the rate in which our students, thousands, in fact, who read and or review our recordings are astonishing, just given the fact that the time of day just doesn't work. So I just want to say thanks so much for those who are here on a Saturday morning. And for some of you, it might be a Saturday afternoon, and some of you, it might even be a Sunday morning. But for everybody, it's Saturday for us. So great to have you here. I'm delighted to always talk about money, wealth, and worth. For those who know me or know me long, you know that my background is in that space. Given I've studied in the world of behavioral finance, happiness economics, investor resilience, I loved studying people with money because growing up, I had none. I thought it must be a behavior thing. It must be like a mental thing. It must be like a they have it and I don't. So let's find out why. So I don't know about you, but I was always curious about just how do most people that I see successful become that way? And so I would read the books and attend the workshops and go to the programs. I'd become a member and I would join the circles and I would network with people and just to learn more. Y'all following me? Just give me a thumbs up. And so understanding that one of the greatest topics that people actually really explore, educate themselves about, and wish to equip themselves more with is how do we get more? And for this money clinic, for this money conversation, what's up, Aaron? Good to have you. Good to have Montreal in the house too. I saw that. What I love about these conversations is that whether you're here as a student of that conversation, whether you're a trainer, a coach, a mentor, or speaker, or whether you're a real estate investor, a realtor, a salesperson, or someone who moves products and services, in order to move the needle in your success, you've got to get your relationship right with money. Because ultimately, it's kind of like if you don't get your relationship right with your weight, you'll never shift your relationship with health. Does that make sense? Metaphorically, and of course, this is not the fitness show. This is the money show. So we're going to talk about that. Now, for a lot of people that know that I've published many books, many programs, and over the years, I've been very, very lucky to be a visiting professor at Schulich School of Business, the Executive Development Division, writing programs on wealth creation, wealth management, marketing and selling wealth management services. From that level to just simple levels, I've really enjoyed thoroughly being able to share with people my research, my discoveries, my observations, but I have to declare it's not the truth. If you're writing down notes, I would write that down because as a coach and as an influencer myself, in my own measures, I've got to say that how I speak and what I'm sharing with you is not advice. It's not the truth. This is just my view. You all get that? Just give me a thumbs up. Because we all do have a very personal relationship to money, getting more, generating wealth, getting worth. And I mean, it's my way or your way. It could be the left way or the right way. But at the end of the day, it's got to be a way that works for you. So if you're making any notes, especially if you're a coach or trainer, the only approach that works best is the one that works for you, providing it works, providing that once implemented and or applied, it leaves you in a different place, a better place by your measures, not my view. Because who am I to judge what Latif is up to? Who am I to judge how Phil is approaching that game? Who am I to approach Jerry to say, here's how you should really do it, Jerry? So the reality is that we're just in a conversation. Is that fair for everybody? Just give me an okay. Fantastic. Now, on that note, and for a lot of you that are here, a lot of people have been sending me great messages. Brenda, good to have you. It's good to have you here, Danielle. It's good to have you here, Donna and Emma. It's great to have you, Dr. Huber, in the house. What's up, Double K? Good to see you, my friend. It's good to see Leanne and Marlene and Matt Soltis. Good to have you, my brother. Good to have Pam and Pamela. It's good to have Tamara and Tara, Tatiana and Tracy. Tuja, of course, I've called you out, but because you're in pink, I had to say it twice because it's so nice. And for a lot of people, I've had this book for many, many years that has continued to follow me through a lot of my work. And it was a book I had called Wealth Mastery. And Wealth Mastery was a book that I wrote in order to tour alongside Tony Robbins. For those who know who that is, a great motivational speaker, probably the grandfather of making it such a retail, publicly accessible, but global phenomenon, whether it was through his tapes, his workshops, or running across burning coals. I mean, the reality was when I toured with him, I needed to have my own book. And the book needed to speak to the spirit of what it was I was doing full time. So for you, if you've known this, and especially if you're doing this now, if you were in the space of raising money or doing something in real estate and you wanted to tour alongside Tony Robbins, what would you write a book about? Probably the very thing that you're doing, right? Makes a lot of sense. So for me, Wealth Mastery was a book that really became my playbook, a playbook that I'd actually reverse engineered much of what I learned in the 20 years I had spent working with people with money. So for those who don't know, I started in the financial services business, in the wealth management space. And I'd worked and got trained on Bay Street, but I was built on Wall Street. And one of the things I was responsible for was sitting down with ultra high net worth clients, sitting down, foot to foot, face to face, elbow to elbow at tables, kitchen counters, even boardrooms, with family offices and even endowment funds to find out not only what made them successful, but in their view, what would keep them so. So I was, unbeknownst to me, really reverse engineering what it took for millions and millions of dollars to end up there rather than anywhere else. You all get that? So all this research that I was doing, I was a feverish note taker, largely because I needed to prove to my boss I was listening. Secondly, because I was a horrible learner. I don't know about you guys, but when people would say things, it just never stuck. I couldn't remember things. I had either a poor memory recall or, quite frankly, and probably admittingly, I wasn't really paying attention because I was too busy making myself wrong for not having money. I was making myself wrong for not being a part of the Lucky Sperm Club. I was making myself completely wrong, saying, how the hell did I get here? I don't have the right. What makes me deserve sitting across from this millionaire, this billionaire for that matter? But what I remained was a committed student, and largely because I was an employee of a company that paid me to do what I had to do. So I didn't want to lose my job. So I always would say, hey, I was listening. Take a look at my notes. You all get that? And I would have copious amounts of notes. But over time, and it would take me years to realize this, is those notes really revealed much of the thinking that I was exposed to. Now, by osmosis, some would suggest that perhaps I picked up some of those traits. So maybe, I don't know if you've ever had this experience of taking on The Sopranos, the television series, and by the time you were done, you were talking like a good New Jersey boy. I mean, foul-mouthed and Sicilian sounding. You all get what I'm saying? So when you sometimes immerse yourself in something, you become that thing. When you immerse yourself in that something, you become that thing. So for me, it just so happened that I began to really understand the psychology of money. People who had it, people who could produce it, people who generated more. And one of the top things I noticed, above all else, I know what you're thinking. It was mindset, wasn't it, Rich? They had a mindset, right? They had a mindset, a positive view. And you're right, that was one. Or no, Rich, they must have had great advisors because money can buy great advice. Tax advisors, estate planners, succession planners, offshore investment strategists, and such and such. This is true. Great advice, because if you got great wealth, you can, buy great intelligence. But one of the things that I found also astonishing, and I want to share it with you today, because it's something we can take action on no matter what level of game you're playing, is they all began with the end in mind. What they did was they followed a design. Some of us would call that a plan. Some of us would call that perhaps even sort of an agenda. And it's usually comprised of objectives and goals and all kinds of wonderful things that would really, in fact, determine and define the what's next. But what I always found very astonishing is that whatever they designed as their plan or approach, they followed it to a T. In other words, there was no knee-jerk reactions. There was no emotional oil spills. There was no upset when the markets were down, and there was no rejoice when the markets were up. Very rarely did I find that their emotionality was a part of the plan, a part of the play. It was just what they did. What I find is that when I work with millionaires or anyone below that measurement, very rarely do I see planning in play. Very rarely do I start to notice that we actually, in fact, are following a destiny by design. We leave much to chance. Much of it is reactionary. In fact, if you want to write down a word, and this is important, the one thing that motivates us most with money, especially the less of it we have, is we have this obsession, this addiction, this wanting for more. After all, if I got more money, I don't have to worry about what I have at the end of a week. If I've got more money, I don't have to worry about my children's education or a vacation or what it's going to cost to live in the way and the lifestyle in which I've chosen and wish for. More, in some ways, has become this massive addiction, an obsession, in fact, that is really only rooted in one place. And guess what it is? Our emotional response called survive. When you think of the term surviving, when you think of, look at you, Jerry, I see you got the book there. Look at you, all digitized, man, looking gold, looking pretty. Fantastic. You hear me just fine, Vincent? Just making sure. You guys got to know that when it comes to more always creates a gap. Now, if you're following me as a coach, a mentor, or trainer, I need you to write this down, because as a coach, I understand the value I create is in bridging the gaps. You see, in bridging the gaps, I realize that when my clients, my coachees, my students, or members, they say, Rich, I'm over here, but where I want to be is over there. And if there's a difference between here and there, that's the gap. And the purpose of a coach is to take someone from point A to point B. Yeah, from point A to point B. The greater the gap, the greater the service. The more daunting the task, by the way, for both. Because as a coach, I've got to keep that person intact, faithful, dedicated, and committed to the path to make sure they cross the chasm. But for them, the student, the pupil, the member, the coachee, they've got to stay the course. But who's got to do the work? They've got to do the work. So in the world of money, when we always approach more, we always are in a reactionary position where the knee-jerk reaction is short-lived, but the emotional impact is long-lasting. I'll say that in a different way. Just think for a moment before I go deep into this content. And I want to hear from all of you here and for a moment, if this is really resonating with you, how many of you can remember a time when you had a financial distress moment, whether it was a bill that came in and you needed to come up with some quick money, whether it was 15 days or 30 days, or you had an expense that just popped out of nowhere and all of a sudden you had to pay for it in a hurry, or you miscalculated something and you needed to rally some financial resources of some kind, or even you made a commitment, thought something would come through and it didn't, and therefore you needed to find that money somewhere else or else. Right, my fellow real estate investors? I thought I'd have that money by now. I was expecting that check in the mail. I thought the deposit would drop or the check would clear. And what happened was you dealt with whatever you dealt with, but emotionally you felt it ran you. Who can understand that? Just put a hand up. You'll get what I'm saying? That's the contrast. Now I want to hear from some of you. Let me take a look and see who's got a hand up, because that's really important. What's important to understand is that before we dive into this content around designing your destiny and understanding what the ultra rich and the wealthy do to stay the course and remain unemotional in their pursuit for more, before I share with you what they've done and share with you some take-home actionables so you've got them, I want to hear from you. Who here could understand what we're talking about here? Understand that much of your pursuits to more is knee-jerk reaction. Much of your aspirations financially for yourself and your life feel like they're just really emotionally charged, but not very physically riveting. Who here would mind sharing with me, in fact, or perhaps agreeing that you notice yourself constantly looking at your goals, your objectives or aspirations, but you're not gaining the traction, or you're getting far more emotional because you've not made great headway? Who here wants to share? I see a lot of people sharing in here. I mean, I agree with you, Bill. I agree with you there, Crystal. And Michelle, what's up, girl? Good to see you. I agree with you, Tatiana. Good to see you, Victoria. I know what you're doing. Let's go up to Christian, my good friend here in Scotland. What's up, buddy? It's good to have you here. I trust you're well. Well, I'm asking you to unmute. Let's see if you can see it there. Oh, there he comes.
There you go. How you doing, Rich?
Good, my man. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a great start of this call. So it's I always love when you speak about doing more and how we get to realize that unless something is pushing us from behind, we have the tendency to go to the default position, as you call it. Because you mentioned that a few times about when we go into that emergency or survival mode, we found ourselves finding solutions and resolutions to things that we haven't even thought that it's going to be even possible for us. So for me, I'm always looking for more because it makes me it keeps me driving, and it keeps me on the driver's seat. The minute I go back into default position, that's where I can see that the finance are getting affected. The fact that my achievements are not as great as I wanted, and that's where I realized that in order to be able to keep that movement, you have to thrive all the time. You have to go into a place where more is not enough, and you want to have more of more, because that puts you in a position you always moving. So being in a movement, it's always something that helps me to stay active and not to even think about what if that bill is coming in, what am I going to do? So I'm trying to make sure that I'm one step ahead of the game. Sometimes you fall in out of that game, but I think acknowledging how when it happens, it's the key. And if you learn to acknowledge it faster, it's even better. So that's my take on discussion. Great discussion, by the way.
No, I love it. I love that you're here. And I mean, you're one of the most courageous guys that I know that takes on their relationship with money very seriously. But great to hear your voice, Christian. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. I'm going to get up to Mark. But you got to know that oftentimes when people are trying to better themselves, especially financially, they're always coming from a place. You cannot help but psychologically and emotionally come from a place of not being enough. Like if there's something more you want, if there's another place you need to go, if there's another level you wish to experience, it automatically makes where you are wrong. And that generates other emotionalities like this is not safe. It's not what it was meant to be. And what sometimes can creep into the financial psyche is not uncertainty and not unwelcomeness, but a sense of foreignness. In other words, we look for another solution rather than being the source of resolve. Like this is something else I got to do rather than I can actually be something different. But we're going to dive deeper into this in a moment. But I want to hear from Mark Jean first, because it was great to hear from Christian who kicked things off. Thanks again, Christian.
Good morning. Hey, Rich, I really appreciate these calls, and I'm excited that they're going to continue, at least on the weekdays. So that'll be great. I think for me as a business owner, I experience this want for more a lot because we go through cycles of projects coming in, we've got cash flow, things are happening, and then all of a sudden things change, whether things get delayed or things slow down. And I found for me, it's usually because I get caught up working in the business and not stay focused, working on the business to keep creating cash flow, or I get comfortable with the money coming in and I'm not constantly pursuing more, networking with more people that we can help as a service business in the technology and home entertainment world. And so for me, I think it's really being in contact to communities like this that help me stay focused, because it's easy to get overwhelmed and freak out, as you know, from our conversations that we've had, and not stay focused on what has generated the income, the cash flow. And so that's what happens with me, is just those cycles. You get comfortable because the work's coming in, referrals are happening, and I'm not pursuing more to keep it consistent.
Well, to keep this live, real in coaching, understand that Mark's not only a great friend, he's also a member of our Rich Mastermind. He's a Rich Mastery graduate, just as actually Christian actually is. But here's what I want to say, that when you have a challenge, especially financially, who we become is not the long-term solution. We don't usually put in fixtures that consistently deal with that problem or challenge long-term. They're just Band-Aids. They're just knee-jerk responses. Meaning, for example, I'm noticing I don't have a lot of money. Let me get a side hustle. Correct that. And all of a sudden, that thing I'm now doing, in addition to things I'm already doing, I can now let go of. You all get what I'm saying? Rather than increasing the efficiency and the levels of monetization on what you already do. So rather than doing more stuff, is there a way to do things smarter, more effectively, that allows you to optimally monetize what you're doing? So that's all a little bit of mind shift, number one. Number two is, remember, folks, and I want you to write this down, we are only wired because we are perfecting only one act, and that is survival. Remember, 3 million years it took for our minds to perfect only one act, and that's survive. Get by in one piece. Not be happy, not be fulfilled, not living a purpose-driven life, not looking good like Tuja, not feeling effective in the world like John Huber does and making the impact that he does, not looking like a great Speedo model like Jerry Rakowski. Like, these things are called generative acts. It takes something. So you need to constantly generate something that's above and beyond just surviving. So for you, Mark, yeah, you're right. Like, you got to know that it's not just a Mark Jean thing. It's a human thing. That if you want to grow a business, you've got to do more than you predictably do. Mm-hmm. If you want to get in shape, you're going to have to do something more. And likely, I want you all to write this down, and we'll get back to you in a minute there, Mark. It's going to be uncomfortable. So it's a little bit of a juxtaposition. So for people who really, in fact, want to make more money or generate more wealth or have more worth, it's going to take more work, more action, more mental aptitude. And I don't want to get this into a motivational talk. I want to get to some real material here, but I definitely want to leave my friends off knowing one thing, that it is all truly resolvable. So back to the point, in designing your destiny, I mean, you've got to really always know, what exactly do you want? Now, for a lot of you here who are massive students, even advocates and ambassadors of great content, from the Michelle Mupos of the world to the Nimas of the world, I mean, to Suzanne Malloy Zaleskis of the world. I mean, you guys are all quite damn smart at what you do, but very rarely are we absolutely concise on, what do you want exactly? What does it look like? Understanding what it'll take to acquire it, maintain it, and share those things that are integral to your destiny and others. Like, once you make a choice, now you get to move, and I want you to write down this word. It's a big one. You get to move with definitiveness. Now, remember, this conversation is coming from my observation of family offices and ultra high net worth people that I had a profound honor of working with for over a decade, billions of dollars. And the one thing they shared, all in common, 100% of the time, is a grand plan for intergenerational wealth. They followed a plan that would serve generations to come. The unspoken truth of that is, there was a statement, and it didn't need to be said, that we want this money to last 100 generations. What a steadfast view. Now, I know what you're thinking. Listen, I just want to have enough money to last me until next year. What I'm talking about, though, is the DNA of this destiny by design is all about really understanding that you've got to really map things out. I mean, when you really think about innovations like the space shuttle or cell phones, planes, cars, radio, even a printing press, all those creations of humankind were first creations of human imagination. And what's interesting is, the older we get, the less we use it. All we are reactionary machines to when shit goes wrong, when bills come in, when the cash flow flows away. See, to the man without a vision, a rough-hewn hunk of marble is just a rock. But to a visionary like Michelangelo, it's a masterpiece waiting to be revealed. Because that man stayed imaginative right till the very end. So the men and women who lay claim to their destiny see through obstacles to the possibilities inside. It's not enough to simply wish for something. God, I can't wait for this to be over. God, I wish I had more money. Oh my God, I can't wait till Christmas is done. Oh my gosh, I can't wait till spring rolls around. It's not enough to simply hope for something. I mean, the giants of history have desired those things that they focus on with such intensity as to render their potent thoughts of undistinguishable from physical facts. They vividly saw things not as they are, but as they would be. And it worked. They harness the full power of their subconscious and make their dreams so realistic and that their subconscious mind could not tell between fact and fiction. What I just said is profound. People who led their lives from imagination, their subconscious mind couldn't tell from fact to fiction. So this is why, whether you want to be a coach or an influencer, whether you want to get into business on your own or raise millions and billions or build a portfolio or just simply do better, right? Whether it's your goals and aspirations, and even if you call that a 10x vision for yourself, you've got to know that your mind can't tell the difference between fact and fiction, fantasy and your vision. And that brings me to one first big point. It begins with a vision. If you're writing down notes, I would write that down. I mean, you can't help but talk about vision without referencing the miracle that occurred on August 28th, 1963, in front of 250,000 people, where civil rights supporters met at the foot of Lincoln Memorial just to hear the words of one of the greatest visionaries of all time, Martin Luther King Jr., where he gave that world famous and historically profound talk on I Have a Dream. And what really moved people was it embodied a vision for what could be. Never mind what should be and now has become. But it was a dream speech. It wasn't a I have a plan. It wasn't a I have an idea. Martin Luther King didn't come on air and say, I have a thought or a hunch or a hope. I have a dream. So it's the dream that not only got deeply rooted in the American DNA, and that, for those who don't know it, because I apologize that just by the looks of things, there's a lot of really young people here, so they might be saying Martin Luther King who? But his dream was, and I just sort of providing some subcontext, is that he said that little black boys with little black girls will play with little white boys and little white girls and on and do so without judgment, not from the color of their skin, but of the content of their character. And from every mountaintop, let freedom ring. I have a dream today. I'm just paraphrasing. I apologize. I really didn't do Martin Luther King some justice there. But the power of having a vision generated by words is what created, and I want you to write this down, especially if you're a rich mastermind or mastery graduate or an advisor, is it allows you to cause and create the future. Now, as you all know, that's a very huge cornerstone in a lot of my work and my IP, my intellectual property, where I believe that human beings are a byproduct of causing and creating what comes next. And when you cause and create what comes next, it starts with you, your view, your opinions of the future itself, and those around you. So if you can cause and create what comes next, you are inventing the future. Some of you might call that vision, right? Some of you might just call that what's next. So the reasons for developing your vision are seemingly boundless and clearly compelling, but here are just a few to consider having a clear vision. It gives you, and I want you to make notes of a couple things. Number one, it gives you a feeling of certainty. Folks, when you have a profound sense of certainty, you're not caught up in having a knee-jerk reaction to crisis. Remember, as I've said before, this brain has perfected only one act over 3 million years: to survive. And the one thing that triggers it to think that it's not going to survive is uncertainty. Where there's uncertainty, it moves into survival mode. Whoa. Pam, I know you're a beautiful dancer, but let's not dream too big. Let's stay small. Let's go safe. Let's shrink up. Let's not pursue our dreams. Let's not pursue our aspirations. That sounds dangerous. That sounds uncertain. Y'all get that? Good to see you, Pam. I mean, the reality about certainty is it creates for you a sense of safety. This is why it is far easier to meet the demands for a payment 15 or 30 days out, but you can't maintain that momentum to create the money miracles consistently forever. because we're addicted to safe and certainty, not to having it all and living a fulfilled life. Also, a vision for you, it helps you make decisions quickly. The clearer I become, not just as a father and not just as a leader, not just as a business person who's responsible for many businesses and therefore many people, but the clearer I become with my vision for what's next, the easier it is for me to say no. And a lot of you know who I am. You know how I tick. It's hard to say no. I'm a people pleaser, just like Vincent. I mean, I just don't want to say no to anybody, just like Dr. Huber. I mean, I just love people like Latif. I don't want to say no, so I do it all. Who here always is doing it all the time? So it's an act of, and if you're really loving this conversation and digging the notes, I want you to write this term down because it's what it's about. It becomes about more self-preservation, which leads to self-representation. Helping you make decisions quickly is important, and this allows you to create long-term focus. This is why there's an ebb and flow to a lot of people want to be coaches and mentors and trainers. It worked for a few months and then it didn't work at all. Then it worked again, it didn't work at all. Then it worked again, it didn't work at all. Then I burnt out, I reinvented myself and I relaunched again. Why? Because we're actually looking for some sort of result that's measured in a way that's not keeping you, well, still both vital and engaged. It attracts like-minded people like you when you've got a vision. It makes you resilient during setbacks. And when you have moments of discouragement, it reveals resources and opportunities you never saw before. If you're only surviving, you're only attracting band-aids and short-term solutions. But if you're looking to fulfill a long-term vision for yourself, then you'll be attracting resources and opportunities that serve a long-term vision. It allows you to create the future you desire. It gives you a greater sense of purpose. It forces you to address your personal shortcomings. And here's the best one, is to abandon, just for now, the version of you that doesn't serve you. I want you to remember this just as a real quick check-in. Like, you know, those long road trips you take and you see a service station ahead and you're like, you know what, I don't need gas, but let me just jump out for a second and stretch. Let's just do a quick stretch. Check this out. You all are playing a money game. All of you are. Look at you. And I want you to know one thing. That money game, you're winning. The question becomes, is that the game that makes you happy? Is that the game that leaves you fulfilled? Is that the game that really honors your gifts, your blessings, your true potential? And I bet you'd say no, and that's why we're here. Y'all get that? But you are all playing a game. And the game you are playing, you are currently winning. You got to know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So you've got to consider that you, by moving, by transcending from a clear vision, Richard, I got it. I'm clear on what I want. I'm clear on what I don't want. I know what tomorrow looks like. Now, being clear needs to move to being powerful. And what's the difference? When it's a powerful vision, it moves you into action regardless of how you feel, regardless of what people say, regardless of what people think, regardless of what your husband's view is, or your wife, or your, and that wasn't for anyone in particular. Wink, wink. I'm just winking at New York right now, just being very cryptic. But y'all get what I'm saying? You're doing it because this is exactly what you know you need to do. And when that happens, when your vision moves from just being clear to being powerfully in action, that's when it starts to be commanding. That's when details start to emerge. That's when boldness becomes you. This is where precision is your friend. This is where personal growth serves you. This is where you start getting fueled with energy. It starts to attract followers. Oh my God, I love what you're up to, David Starline. Tell me, how did you come up with this whole idea? Tell me why you're always giving me thumbs up and giving me love. Where did you get that from? It also not only invites followers, but it will invite obstacles. But every obstacle will only allow you to step up on top of it to really lead to triumph. So in understanding that this conversation is about designing your destiny, you've got to know a couple of requirements to doing that. First, a powerful vision is commanding in scale. When Martin Luther King Jr. says, I have a dream, it wasn't just for that sector or that color, this group or those in attendance. He had a dream for all of mankind of color. So the man or woman who has captured your imagination and truth thinks colossal thoughts, took massive action, and has a bulletproof shield of confidence to defend them. This is where you grow, and it's one of my favorite words, but you grow impervious. You grow impervious to what people think, what they're up to, and what they have to say about you, or what you're up to. And by the way, most people who have an opinion are up to little. What's speaking isn't a judgment of what you're pursuing. What they're assessing is their own relationship to what they're not pursuing. I'm never happy when I see a neighbor of mine drive a nicer car than me. Never. I would lie to you if I said, oh my God, Jim, is that a new Rolls Royce you've got? Yes, right, sir. 2024. What an asshole. I'll admit it. I'm not happy for him because I look at myself and say, what am I not driving a new car for? And so I look in my life to see what new pursuits I need to pursue. Folks, we are all benchmark checkers. All of us are. If we weren't, we wouldn't look so damn good. That's why we're all fully dressed here with the exception of a few. All right, let's leave those folks alone. Second is a powerful vision needs to be detail rich. Guys, this is big. And Marlene, I wasn't talking about you because I know it's early in the West Coast. So however you're dressed, we love you here anyway. But a powerful vision is detail rich. Guys, I cannot tell you how important this is, especially if you're a coach. I mean, if you're a business advisor, a consultant, if you're someone who's loving to 10x people's businesses or lives, one of the ways in which you can sell your coaching services is really mutually grow addicted to finding more details. You can never define something rich enough. And I don't mean richer enough. I mean just rich enough. What I mean by that, and I want to say this slowly, is that when people are writing down their goals and aspirations that then in fact populate a vision for a better tomorrow, a better future, yeah? What ends up happening is they're just delighted that they can think that far ahead. Rare is it that the details are that rich. Do you want to know why, according to psychologists and those who study social behavior, do you want to know why we're so lit up about beautiful things in the future like vacations or like a wedding, even a honeymoon? Do you want to know why? Because those are some of the most personal things that will ever be involved in planning, that the details matter and are accomplishable. Think about it. If you went on a vacation, you need to know where you got to be, where you're going to go, where you're going to stay, what type of room you've got. As soon as you land, you know what you're doing. You're checking out the gym, the restaurants, booking your reservations, and you want to know the first most important thing of that vacation. Where do I get the towels? Where do I get the towels? And on it goes and on it goes. Heck, you might even have a system on how to get the best chairs first thing in the morning. That's why you wake up 3 hours earlier than you normally do on a vacation just to sit by the pool in the right spot. You all get what I'm saying? We are addicted to details when it serves you. But when it comes to the future, we really lack the detail. So for your subconscious to fully buy into the imagined reality you are creating for yourself, you need to create images in your mind that are so vibrant, so colorful, that you cannot help but believe you're experiencing them in the present. I've often done this in live presentations. Like right now, I'll do it even again. Everyone on the count of 3, just start laughing out loud, even wake up the house. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Right? You all get that? All right. Now here's the funny part. Do you not experience a little bit more joy than you did about 3 seconds ago? Just a little bit more. Y'all with me? Just give me a little bit. Give me a little pinch. A little pinch. Your brain doesn't know if it was funny or not. Your brain's not saying, hey, we just gave an unrequired laughter, an expression of humor for no particular reason. Your brain doesn't know the difference. The amount of endorphins that just got released in your body are going to be measurably greater than about 5 minutes ago. Want to know why? You laughed out loud. In other words, your mind doesn't know the difference between fact and fantasy. Daniel Tucci says, I felt fake. That's okay, but your brain feels good. By the way, if you haven't noticed, we're all fake, but that's another conversation. So when you have a vision that's so vibrant, so colorful, you cannot help but believe you're experiencing them in the present. So the picture of your vision for what you want financially must be a picture that you're able to see in your mind's eye so that it starts to look for doses of and contributing factors for realism. I'll say that in a different way. If I created a vision for myself to be, let's say, a multimillionaire, let me just use an easy one. And I began to believe that. And I saw myself having lunches with millionaires and doing business with millionaires and advising millionaires. When I come across millionaires, because now I am purposely putting myself in rooms where they exist, I'm not standing there like a fake. I'm not even standing there like, oh my God, they let me in. I'm standing there because I'm looking at myself saying, you know what? I'm exactly in the room I need to be in. I'm talking as if I belong. Because the truth of the matter is this, you do. Who can say any different? Good to see you, Navtash. Good to have you here, my brother. So the picture in your mind's eye must be drenched with realism. You have to engage all your senses to bring your future life, your future financial life into the present. So this clear vision is important. So let me just do a quick pause again. If we're talking about your relationship with money, wealth, and worth, and we're talking about having a future, a financial future that really is one that's by design, it's got to be really ultra powerful in and commanding in scale. This is one of the reasons I fell in love with Grant Cardone. One of a handful, and there's not very more than that. But one I loved his 10x thinking. Y'all get this so far? 10x thinking was whatever it is that you want, just 10x it. Whatever it is you want to get to, just get yourself there faster. And whatever it is you want to accomplish, make it be 10x more powerful. The factor of 10x, for those who don't know this, actually was grounded in the original thinking that led to the development of Google. It was called moonshot thinking. They were the ones who first created the phraseology 10x. Fun fact for you all to know. Now, why do I know that? Well, I've been working with Google for over 15 years. They've been a client for a very long time. And moonshot thinking was what led to their cloud development and some of their Google goggles design, et cetera, et cetera. So a powerful vision is commanding in scale. You've got to make sure that yours is. The number two thing is you want to make sure that the powerful vision is detail rich. You guys tracking this so far as we're rounding up the call? So when you look at your goals and your aspirations, the first thing you've got to ask yourself is, first of all, is this a very commanding in scale vision? Number two, is it really got the details I need to see? You see, now the third is the powerful vision for you and your financial future. It requires boldness. Now, if there's one thing, back to the point I had made about Grant, is that the guy is a bit of a beast of boldness. Would you all agree? But so is my dear friend, Tony Robbins. So is lots of other people I've worked with. 4 US presidents, Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres, just to name a few. Even NBA players that I've been able to work with and work alongside of, they always would start the season believing that they can win a championship, even if they're not the ones in the front running. So the exceptional life is not for the faint of heart, my friends. The great rewards are not left to those who are meek and timid. I mean, it's not like someone's going to come find you and remove you from the threat of defeat. This is on you. There's no treasure to be unearthed by those who are tired quickly in the effort. Life is an emotional, full contact sport. And I would write that down. Life is an emotional, full contact sport. And the visionaries who've donned their psychological armor for the contest they've joined, you've got to understand people like Columbus or Jackie Robinson or back to Martin Luther King Jr. A vision is not to be a memory of what was or a picture of what is. It is a dream of what will be. I'm going to say that one more time, because really at the end of the day, we're given half the day to, in fact, rest in such a way that when we do dream, we can realize living it in reality. Again, a vision is not a memory of what was. It's not a picture of what is. It is a dream of what will be. That's an effective dream. And since what you've envisioned does not yet exist, it means that you have and must possess the courage to tempt fate and overcome pessimism and doubt and fatigue. I don't want to do it today. Well, you tell me if your life's worth not doing it today. It takes courage, friends. It takes courage to pursue what you believe to be right, particularly when the gap between the present and the future seems so damn large. The larger the gap, the greater the joy when you feel the wind beneath your feet as you fucking soar to the other side of what you believe and deserve to have in your life, period, full stop, end of fucking story. And as long as we know that that gap is what prevents you from feeling as though you were built to get there, we will remain in our default position of just simply getting by and surviving in one piece. And I'll tell you something, folks, regardless of how life goes, you will be buried in whatever piece you're in. So when they bury me, I will be weathered, tired, scarred, bumped, and bruised by the time I get there, because I'm going to take all the leaps of faith I possibly could be afforded. Y'all get that? Who's with me? Come on, who's with me? You see, guys, it's all about designing your destiny. This is not about leaving destiny to default. And even if destiny was predetermined, I don't know who wrote that. I don't even believe someone did. I'm talking about you taking full right and full authorship of your own life. The fourth move is to make sure that that powerful vision is precise. This is huge. My dear friend, Jen Carmona is on the line. What's up, girl? This is a woman who's living her life by design. Why? Because she can. And she chooses to. This is available to you, Chris. I'm coming for you, man. I'm coming for you. We are either going to be left to live life in default. And by the way, default position is what, guys? Who can tell me? Let me stop for a second to see if who's tracking what I'm saying here. If you leave your life to your default position, that default position of living your life is based on what? I know you got it, by the way, John. I saw that you said that. And by the way, I miss you, man. We got to talk again. Comfort and survival. Survival. I'm seeing a lot of survival, by the way. Comfort and survival. Safe and secure. Default and comfort. And I miss you too, Jen. Default. Now you're all understanding the emotionality that triggers you to go back into a default position. So whether you're at a real estate event and someone says, we got great buying opportunities, and you're like, oh my God, that sounds fantastic. And then you're like, but I just can't. And you default to your past position. The who you'll always be is a byproduct of the past in which you've come from. In other words, without designing what comes next, your default position is the past. And your future is all but just a repeat of what's been. Tony Robbins says it best. I always quote this because I love it when he said it, is that if you want something you've never had, you're going to have to do something you've never done. If you want something you've never had, you're going to have to do something you've never done. And so a powerful vision being precise is all about having a singular goal and being incredibly obsessed by it. By point of reference, one of the most amazing things is that in working with Tiger Woods years ago, right when he went through a really tough time and thought he'd quit golf due to really bad personal choices, I had the opportunity of learning firsthand from him that his father built the idea of the world's greatest golfer. Now, true, Tiger may have been born an athlete, but he was built a golfer. He was born an athlete, but he was built into a golfer. A lot of you who have amazing talents were born with those gifts, but you've realized them as an expression called being a mom, being a stylist, being a dancer, being an advisor, being an influencer, or just being a wonderful human being. But regardless of what that is, the act of putting pen to paper forces your mind to specify your dream. Your success has to be a byproduct of specificity. It has to be concrete by you, poured by your hands. And it carries weight in your mind because you're the one who wrote it. And there's nothing more gratifying than living the life you designed. Not the life that your parents gave you, not the life that your ex told you could, not the one that your ex or someone said you couldn't, not in spite of, but because you wrote it. No architect would ever sign off on blueprints until every measurement had been recorded, confirmed, and verified. You are the architect of what comes next. What are you signing off on? And by the way, the absence of signing off on it is the authorization of it. Because you just can't deny that nothing can fly unless it crosses your path. A properly crafted vision invites execution because its precise image engenders, it brings on, it induces a feeling of confidence, a feeling that this is the correct path to take. Last but not least, because I want to hear from some of you, a powerful vision requires you to expand yourself in mind. This is how you know you're on the right path of creating more wealth for yourself. generating more money opportunity, or finding a commercial expression of your gifts and your talents. Vienna, being able to do that in such a way that you're expanding yourself and your financial life, here comes, is an expression of who you designed yourself to be. Your vision is a picture of what your world can become. You can make it whatever the hell you want it to make. And all that progress is in our external experience, but it's born of the progress we've generated first internally, meaning that what I experience out there in the world is a byproduct of what's happened inside this world. If I don't like what's going on for me out there, I got to put a course correction in here. So when people say, but it's really unfair out there, sure, because you're unfair inside. It is all in here. It's about making the decision and choosing to be courageous. Right, Tara? Concise, specific, daring. And by the way, daringly authentic. And that is the way of being that moves, touches, and empowers you to take on your vision with a vengeance. By the way, this is a money call. Why does vision have a place in money? Because our measure of it is, if not annually, monthly, if not could be daily. And it's a barometer that when that needle moves, you know you're making progress. You're making impact. You're making a difference. You're taking on ground. Now, all successful people I've noticed are people that are willing to hold a mirror up to their own character and look deeply into who and what they truly are. That's the most courageous act of starting to design what comes next for yourselves. So for a lot of you, that's tough. It might mean, shit, I'm lazy. Or shoot, I'm scared. Maybe you're going to say, I just don't know what's next or what to do or where to start. And those are all perfectly fine. But the first place you've got to start is knowing where you're starting from. Keeping it together, keeping up the appearances, making sure that the world thinks we're okay, intact, and got it together. That is just foolishness. You want to know the truth? And I'm here to tell you, no one really cares. No one cares. People barely care about themselves, let alone how you're doing, what you're thinking. We are performing on a stage where we believe the world is watching, and the world don't care. Don't believe me? Look anywhere on this planet right now. If it cared that much about one another, we would have our shit together in politics, in policy, in social consciousness, in global impact, in our relationship to God or faith or however you want to view it. We would have it together. We ain't got nothing together. So keep yourself together. All successful people are willing to hold a mirror up to their character, to say, who am I? Who have I been doing? What have I been doing? And how can I get out of my own way? How do I get out of my own way? You must become the person you see in this vision. Your personal growth holds the key to your success and your rigorous discipline towards self-improvement. So understanding this, I'm going to give you a bonus because we've got the time. When you know that that powerful vision expands yourself and your mind, I'll give you a bonus because I've given you 5, but here's a 6th. That powerful vision then begins to align with your values. You see, you can't have 2 contradictory thoughts in the conscious mind simultaneously. You just can't. You can't believe that all things come to those who wait, while also thinking he who hesitates is lost, right? You can't say, I got to have more money, but oh my God, money is so evil. You can't have it both ways. You can't have a foot on first and you want to get home. To get to greater lands, you've got to be willing to let go of the land in which you step on. I mean, the reality for you is to be completely congruent and maintain your personal integrity. The vision you pursue must align with your principles, because that will be where, for my really advanced pupils here, that's where your 3 keepers will kick in. Your 3 keepers will kick in when what appears? Threat, uncertainty, attack, or a sense of safety. And what it'll trigger are your subconscious protective systems that will say, whoa, 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 we don't want to get judged here. We don't want to look like an idiot. Don't open your mouth. Or I'm not ready to come out because I have got to be way bigger than that. I need a glossier logo and way better pictures before I go out there in the world. Or what if I get this wrong? What if I screw this up? What if I lose out? That fear. Remember, judgment, ego, fear. Jeff as the acronym. Those are your keepers. Born out of your upbringing and was given to you to keep you safe. And for all of my students, Jeff is good, but it won't bring you to great. The things that preserve you and protect you keep you intact, but keeping intact is not what this call is about. This is not the mastering mediocrity call. This is the, hey, how do I get it all call? And for all of you, you've got to know that this call, being a money call, is about how you must design your destiny. Causing and creating your financial future, in summary, comes down to making these 5 things happen. Number 1 is a powerful vision as commanding in scale. If it's not 10x, just to use my dear friend Grant Cardone's reference, if it's not richer in the things that happen, I would often tell people, if you take what you earn, that's what you've got. If you multiply it by 2, that's what you really want. But if you multiply it by 5, that's what you deserve. But if you take that original number and multiply it by 10, that's what you desire. That one scale all alone just shifts everything. If you go from, hey, but Rich, I'm only making $5,000 a month, that's all I really need. But what you desire is really 50 grand, that's commanding in scale. It has to be commanding in scale. Number 2 is that the powerful vision is detail rich. I want a new house. How big? Built of what? Viewing where? Where does the sun rise from? Where does the sunset come from? Walk me through the house. What are the floors like? The walls? Are there pictures? Is there art? Is there music playing? And if so, is it coming out of one speaker or multiple systems? Tell me about this home. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? And if you start to notice what's kicking in, God, this is going to really be a big house I got to clean. Then you notice that that's your Jeff. We don't need a big house. Too much to clean. A powerful vision is detailed rich. This allows you to keep a very clear idea in your head so that your mind doesn't know fantasy from fiction. Number 3, a powerful vision requires boldness. Now, I know I've said that scale has to be commanding and detail must be rich, but boldness is that it has to be something that really summons your courage. It lights you up. You can't wait to do this. Like traveling to a new place, discovering a new adventure. Number 4 is a powerful vision is precise. Being able to put this on paper allows you to not constantly just craft it, but it allows you to, in fact, invite collaborators and other elements for execution, because precise imaging engenders a feeling of, and here it comes, confidence. Remember, friends, when you put it in writing, your keepers are cool, because you now know with certainty what's next. Hold on. I gave you one of the biggest life hacks. If it's not in paper, then it's just a bloody prediction. And our minds don't like predictions. When you put it in writing, when you write it yourself by your own penmanship, it allows your neurological systems and mind to say, we wrote that, we must be pretty certain. And it keeps the keepers at bay. No need to worry about judgment, ego, or fear. He's got this. She's got this. Number 5 is a powerful vision requires you to expand yourself and mind. This is the whole idea that you must become the person you see in your vision. I'll write that down one more time. You must become the person you see in your vision. This is a little bit of that old 80s adage from consultants and speakers, like fake it till you make it. I think if I were to reword it, is be it until the world experiences it. No different from our kids who really believe they're astronauts or NBA stars in the making, or they're actors waiting to be discovered. Our children are living their life without the concern of judgment, ego, and fear. So they're living as if they are. How many of you have got nieces and nephews or godkids like me who go dressed up as princesses to school because they really believe they are? And who am I to say anything different? Charlotte, you are a princess. Yes, I am. 6 years old, and she's walking to school like a princess. Good for you. You can be a princess for as long as you want. But when you go to that job interview when you're 18, I would probably drop that crown. That bonus I gave you was that a powerful vision aligns with your values. Remember, your values will be the backstop. It'll be the backstop to prevent you from thinking big and moving on. Your values and the things, not that you're concerned about, not that you're obsessed about, but the things that govern you, right? The things that govern you. You've got to have real careful attention that's paid to that in the creation of anything that you pursue. That vision of yours actually, in fact, is congruent with the stuff that you really value. That way you don't have what's called inner conflict. I want to be rich, Dolan, but I was brought up believing that money was evil. You see the contradictions? I think Marlene asked me a question, and I'll close this off inside the next 5 minutes because I've gone a little bit longer than I usually do. Was this a value today, by the way, guys? Thumbs up if so. I remember growing up, I came from a very, very bad home. I mean, broken home. My father's a military man. My mother was a mathematician, but they were both very, very poor by anyone's measure. But I remember growing up in the world of money and around a lot of dough. I have to admit, I remember always battling that I wasn't good enough. Always battling I wasn't good enough, wasn't smart enough, wasn't good enough. And now remember, anyone that's coming from a deficiency, we always will overcompensate. I would write that down as a very advanced coaching insight. So when you're coaching people and you look for the overcompensation, either being really super nice or always very giving or always very gracious, which I'm all those things, I was overly gracious. I would I would even give away my toys when I was a kid because I operated with, I didn't deserve them. I wasn't good enough. Why? Because parents broke up and, well, neither one really kind of took me on, and I lived with my grandmother. So I felt like my parents don't like me. So I grew up with that deficiency. So the overcompensation came, and no wonder I'm a coach. And for those who really know me, a lot of my coaching is relatively free. And I would probably even put myself on the line here by saying that because maybe at some levels, it still kind of runs me in some small way. Maybe until I make a real difference, then I'll charge a fee, right? But until a miracle happens, I don't deserve $1. So we always are being run by the who we were evolved into as a young one. That's the keepers. But that's why it's always something that you can always redesign, rebuild, and reimagine. Let me get up to Vincent for a moment.
Hey, Rich.
Hey, buddy.
Okay, so I've been on thousands and thousands of minutes of your calls, listening to.
Gosh, you need an award. You need a ribbon or something then, man, because we have to call you a survivor.
But I got to tell you, this by far has been the best call ever. The best. If you ever want to showcase what you're all about, what you deliver to your audience and to us, if you ever showcase one call on your website, it'd be this one.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying. And here's what I would have to say in rebuttal. First of all, thank you. Consider 3 things. One is that when the right material resonates with the right need, you'll be moved. So we're listening even more keenly to what our students, our followers, and our faithful really need and require. So that's a thank you to you. Number 2 is the only way I can really feel thanked is by you now reporting back to me in the next few days to say, hey, what parts of what I said have you now implemented and you've noticed a shift for yourself? Guys, don't let this be another wonderful morning we spent together, which led you into a wonderful morning for your first or second cup of coffee, or I kept you company on your drive between here and there. See if there's one thing in what you just learned or heard or were represenced to, and you implement it. But let me know. Let me know what opened up for you. Let me know. And that's the greatest gift, the greatest means of payment, if I may say, to someone who was a force in your world to tell me how I was effective in your world. Does that make sense, Vincent? Are you going to take that on for me?
Yeah, for sure. But you got to tell us, what's that green drink you're drinking? Because I think everyone wants it.
Dude, all this was a really nasty glass of celery juice. No offense to celery, but I just want you to know that I miss it when it was with peanut butter growing up. So I think it was really overrated, but that's all that was.
There you
go.
I
appreciate you, man. You're a good man, good friend, good follower. Let me get up to Danielle Tucci because I just was brought to my attention that she had a hand up and I missed it because I'm in the gallery modes and there's lots of people in here. So Danielle, you've got a couple of minutes. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. So what do you do when there's conflict? Like from a coaching standpoint, I'm seeing a lot of people in the professional world, they're miserable. And when I try to explain things to them, they're kind of like doing how Italians, they talk over you or they don't want to hear what you're saying.
Well, listen, Whoops, hold on. You just got muted out. Come back. Are you unmuted
Stop.
again? There you go.
Do I re-deliver in a certain way, or there's people that think they don't understand things when I post on social media? That's because it's not meant for everyone to understand.
You're Italian, right?
I am.
All right. So I'll give you one shortcut move, but I'll give you a practical move for everyone else. Just put your hands up like this.
Manta.
No. And if there's any Italians that want to just speak on top, you say "State zitto."
Zeta.
That means
Okay.
shut up. That means shut up. Hey, listen, for everyone else here, thank you for that insight. Listen, I want you all to write this down, right? Whatever you're committed to, the conversation will follow. This serves me powerfully in my relationships, my businesses, my partnerships. Whatever you're committed to, the conversation will follow. I've often said that whatever you're committed to, your body will follow. So in conversations, you'll always be able to tell what someone's committed to based on just what follows. So if someone's speaking on top of you and someone's really communicating and overly so, guess what they're committed to? Being heard, being right, being in control. And hey, just be cool. All you need to just basically say is, are you finished? Is this complete? Is there anything else you'd like to say? Fantastic. I've heard you. I got it. Now here's what. Giving people room to be their own expression of self is just you not being steamrolled, but you giving yourself the room not to react, but to allow people to respond. There's a little bit more humility that we can embody that allows people just to feel fully expressed. So when you give people the time and the space to express themselves and to feel really, truly heard, a few ways you can do that. You can say, I hear you. I understand. It sounds like. If I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is that this, that, and the other is very concerning, upsetting, or you're bothered, or it's something we need to address. I got it. Leave that with me. Let me process this for some time. Let me sit with this for a bit. Now let me share with you something. And now you respond. Most people want to be right in conversation and life. It is the ultimate triumph with our keepers. Oh, by the way, who wants to be right? The keepers. The keeper that doesn't want to be judged, the keeper that doesn't want to be looking like an idiot, the keeper that doesn't want to get wrong controlled or lose control. The keepers want to be right. The minute they're right, they return. The minute a keeper is right, they return, as in they retreat. This is why we get really activated, and only for maybe minutes or a half hour or an hour or a day later, you're cool as a cucumber because the keepers aren't present. So just find out what people are committed to in a conversation, and more importantly, you. For me, I'm committed to being effective in people's lives, so I give them the room to be expressed, right? So for me, I'm just committed to listening, and that's why I'll always say, so is that complete for you? Is there anything else missing you'd like to say? Oh, you've missed something. Fantastic. Please continue. And I'll just listen. I won't comment. I won't speak. I won't interrupt or regenerate at any time. I want them to feel they've exhausted their expression. Because the thing about keepers is they must be heard. If not heard, you'll have to herd them. And herding cats ain't fun. The only person that's been able to do that is Dr. Huber, effectively. Anyways, hope that was helpful for you, Danielle. Was that good? You good with that? Did I answer your question? Fabulous. Guys, know three things. First and foremost, today was about designing your destiny. That's number one. If you want a great financial future, cause it, create it. You are the author of this thing called life. Write the greatest story possible. If you can't imagine one, find inspiration for one. Number two, you've fabulously listened, effectively so. I've watched your heads go down. I see you all nodding in agreement. I see the activity in the chat room. This is what Rich You is all about. We are delighted to be relaunching Rich You 2.0 with me now coaching all members on a weekly basis. I'm so delighted to return to people's lives on a grand scale that I can manage, because let's be honest, nothing is impacted more unless you enter it through conversation. So I'm delighted to announce that the new Rich You will be launching shortly, where all members will be a part of a weekly coaching call. Other things like a daily dose of Dolan, I think that was genius, where we're launching a podcast where I can get into your ear so you can be great before 8 a.m., your time zone. Cool stuff coming up. So if you want to learn more about Rich Yu and what's new, we'd love for you to be a part of our family. Third and final, thank you so much. I want to acknowledge each and every one of you. I don't have enough time to say thank you to all of you, like Pamela and Naran, Christian and Vienna, Nima and John and Tuja and Jerry, and all of you that are here, each and every one of you. I know you could be in a different place 100 times over this morning. You chose to be here. Thank you for choosing to be here. Without you, I can't be the greater version of me. And for that, I acknowledge you. I'm grateful for that. Until next time, this has been Rich with another conversation on your relationship with money, wealth, and worth. I love you. I got you. You are all great. Now go show the world that's also true. Be well, guys. Be safe. God bless.